Have you ever wondered why you feel so tired even when you haven't moved an inch? It's because carrying invisible weight wears down the soul more than any mountain ever could. The weight of thoughts you didn't choose, the ones that whisper you're not enough, that nothing will change, that maybe just maybe you've already missed your chance. I know that weight. I've lived with it too. But here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts live, it's a garden, and every thought is a seed. Some seeds bloom into strength, peace, purpose. Others, they grow into weeds, doubt, fear, regret. And what grows most is what gets planted most. The question is, what are you watering every day? Because whether you realize it or not, something is always growing. Every complaint, every comparison, every silent "I'm not good enough" becomes a root deepening its hold. But so does every hope. Every moment you choose patience. Every time you speak kindly to yourself when no one else does. You see, life doesn't ask you to be perfect. It only asks you to be aware, to notice what you've been feeding your mind, to ask, not with shame but with gentleness, is this thought growing something I want to live with? That's the power you have. And I know it's easy to forget that when life's been hard for a long time, when disappointment has piled up like unanswered letters, when all you've known is survival, not growth. But still, the garden waits. Quietly, it doesn't punish you for neglect. It simply reflects back what you've given it. And maybe that's the most honest kind of love there is. The kind that gives you exactly what you planted. Not to judge you, but to show you that you always had the power to change it. So let me ask again, what are you growing in the soil of your mind? Are your thoughts building a future, or burying one? You don't need to fix everything today. Just begin with one new seed. Plant one belief that feels more like truth than fear. Water it with action, even if small. Pull one weed. Maybe the thought that says "I'll never be enough." You'll be amazed what changes. Not all at once, but over time, because time doesn't change you. It only reveals what you've been growing all along. So what will you plant today? Every thought is a seed. Choose what you want to grow. There's a quiet truth that shapes every life. Yet so few ever pause long enough to see it. It is this: every thought is a seed. Just like a seed tucked into the soil, your thoughts may seem small, harmless, or even invisible, but given enough time, they always sprout. Some blossom into beauty, others become tangled, thorny weeds, and what grows depends entirely on what you've been planting, moment by moment, without even realizing it. Let's slow down and ask something that very few people ask themselves. What have I been planting in the garden of my mind lately? Is it doubt, worry, the voice that says you're behind, not good enough, not ready yet? Or have you been sowing belief, even in small, humble ways? Maybe a silent "I can try again," or "I'm allowed to begin where I am." The truth is, life does not judge you, it mirrors you. The results you're seeing, the peace or chaos within, the direction or confusion around you, they are all the crops of what's been quietly planted over time. The mind is not a storage room, it's a living ecosystem. And like any garden, it doesn't care whether you plant flowers or weeds, it just grows what you give it. You don't need to have perfect thoughts, you just need to be a conscious gardener. Imagine standing in a field with a handful of seeds. Some are labeled fear, others are labeled faith, some say anxiety, while others whisper hope. Which ones would you scatter into the soil if you really knew that they'd grow into your tomorrows? Because that's what's happening. Each thought is a whisper into your future. Maybe no one ever taught you that. Maybe life taught you to survive, not to maybe you grew up around people who only ever planted doubt in themselves, and unknowingly handed you the same seeds. But awareness is everything. The moment you realize your mind is fertile ground, you gain back your power, the power to choose again, the power to pull out what no longer belongs, the power to plant what aligns with the life you deeply desire, not just the one you've been conditioned to expect. Here's the grace in it all. You don't need to undo your entire past. You just need to start planting something new today. Even one small seed of self-respect can change your direction. One moment of forgiveness, for yourself or another, can grow into peace. One seed of courage can bloom into a season of transformation, but you must plant it. Don't wait for better circumstances or perfect motivation. Start where you are, with what you have. The soil of your mind is ready. Think of your life 5 years from now. What do you want growing there? What kind of peace? What kind of strength? What kind of joy? Then trace it back. What seed could you plant today that would lead there? Because the life you want isn't hiding behind luck or chance. It's hidden in the seeds you're planting in this very moment. And you don't need to get it all right. You just need to begin planting with intention. So today, plant something kind, something brave, something rooted in the truth that you are allowed to choose again. No matter how long you've grown what you didn't mean to, you are not the sum of your past thoughts. You are the gardener of your present ones. And every thought, every single one, is a seed. Your mind will grow what you repeat, not what you intend. Intentions are beautiful things, full of hope, potential and promise. We all carry them, the desire to grow, to be better, to change the trajectory of our life. But there's a quiet truth most people overlook. Your mind does not grow what you hope for. It grows what you repeat. You may intend to be more confident, but if you wake up each day rehearsing your insecurities, your mind will believe them. You may want peace, but if your inner dialogue is filled with worry and what-ifs, your thoughts will plant the very chaos you wish to escape. You may dream of success, but if your daily words echo doubt, fear or excuses, that is what takes root. Because the mind doesn't follow wish, it follows patterns. And patterns are built by repetition. Think of your mind like a trail through a forest. The path you walk the most becomes clearer, easier, automatic. You don't have to think. Your feet just follow. The same thing happens in your thought. What you repeat becomes the worn path, not always because it's true, but because it's familiar. So let me ask you gently, what paths have you been walking in your mind, without realizing it? The things you say to yourself when no one else hears, the thoughts you return to when you're tired, stressed, or afraid, the story you tell yourself when you fail, or even when you succeed. These are the seeds repetition plants. And over time, they become the forest you live in, beautiful or suffocating. Here's the quiet power in all this. You can begin again. You can start walking a new trail. It won't feel natural at first. Your mind will tug you back toward the old path, the one paved by years of repetition. But with time, repetition works in your favor too. The first time you tell yourself, I am worthy of this, your brain might flinch. It might not believe you, but say it again tomorrow, and again the next day, and again when life tries to pull you backwards. Eventually that trail becomes walkable, then natural, then your new default. The mind is not stubborn, it's simply obedient. It doesn't decide what's true or helpful, it just believes what it hears most often. So speak carefully, not with perfection, but with presence. You don't need to fake joy or force positivity. You just need to choose words that move you gently toward the life you desire, even if they feel like whispers at first. Start small. Replace I'm always behind with I'm learning at my pace. Trade I'll never change for every day I'm becoming. Shift I don't know how into I'll figure it out. Then repeat, repeat, repeat. Because while intention is the spark, repetition is the flame. And it's the flame that keeps the path lit when the night is dark and the old trails call you back. This is how you change, not by forcing yourself into a new identity overnight, but by gently feeding your mind new truths, one thought at a time. And over time, the repetition carves a new path, not just in your brain, but in your life. So don't wait to feel different before you speak differently. Seek differently, and let the feeling catch up. Weeds grow by default, but gardens grow by design. Leave a plot of land untouched long enough, and nature will decide what grows there. Not roses, not fruit trees, but weeds. Wild, aimless, thorny things that take up space and choke out anything beautiful that tries to grow beside them. The mind is no different. If we don't tend to our inner world with intention, life doesn't stay neutral. Negativity creeps in not because we choose it, but because we didn't choose anything else. You see, weeds don't need permission. They don't need sunlight or careful planning. They show up in the cracks, uninvited, but persistent. Fear does the same. So does self-doubt. So does anger, if left unchecked. They grow by default, not because we are broken, but because we are human. So the question becomes, are you designing your mind or are you letting it grow wild? Not because you meant to, but because you got tired, distracted, pulled in every direction by a world that profits off your mental clutter. If you're not choosing your thoughts, your habits, your inner voice, something else is. And if you don't design your mindset, don't be surprised when the weeds start to take over. But here's the beauty in it. You don't need to live in a mental wilderness. You can begin designing your garden, your life today. A garden doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with care. It begins with rolling up your sleeves and asking, what needs to go? What thoughts are choking out my peace, my energy, my joy? What beliefs did I inherit, not create? Then, it requires you to ask, what do I want to grow here? Maybe it's self-trust. Maybe it's discipline. Maybe it's the kind of calm that isn't shaken by outside noise. Whatever it is, it must be planted on purpose. Because the best things in life, clarity, peace, focus, growth, are never accidents. They are planted, nurtured, protected. You don't stumble into a beautiful garden. You build it, one quiet decision at a time. Yes, it will take patience. Yes, some weeds will return. But you will begin to notice the difference. A little more sunlight in your thoughts, a little less chaos in your reaction, a few more moments of stillness that used to be filled with noise. And you'll realize something powerful. You were never too far gone. The garden was always waiting. You just had to become a gardener. Not perfect, just aware, not hurried, just consistent, not flawless, just intentional. Because nothing beautiful grows by accident. But everything beautiful begins with a choice. The future isn't waiting, it's already unfolding in your thinking. We often speak of the future as something distant, something that will arrive someday, when the timing is right, when luck finds us, when the world finally makes space for our dreams. But the truth is quieter, more personal, more urgent. The future isn't waiting, it's already unfolding in your thinking. Not next year, not when circumstances change. Right now, in the thoughts you think when no one else is listening. Every decision, every hesitation, every belief you allow to take root, they all stretch their fingers into tomorrow. They build the scaffolding of what's coming next. And the question that echoes underneath it all is this: if your thoughts became your reality, would you be proud of what you're building? This isn't about pressure, it's about perspective. Because whether we realize it or not, we are always rehearsing our future. In our words, in our reactions, in the stories we silently repeat to ourselves each day. And the mind, like a faithful architect, goes to work creating blueprints from those stories. If you constantly think in limitation, the mind will shape a limited life. If you believe joy is reserved for someday, you will keep it just out of reach. If you assume nothing will change, the mind will protect that belief with unshakable evidence. But if you dare to think differently, even gently, your future begins shifting shape. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You only need to begin aligning your thoughts with the life you wish to live. Because life doesn't happen all at once. It happens thought by thought, step by step, belief by belief. It's like watching a photograph develop in slow motion. At first it's unclear, but as time passes, the image sharpens, until one day, you see clearly what your mind has been forming all along. So what picture are your thoughts painting? Are you building a future filled with trust in yourself, or fear of the unknown? Are you growing something hopeful or simply rehearsing your past on a loop? And if you feel stuck, if you feel like nothing is changing, look closer. Chances are, your thoughts haven't changed either. This is the gift and the responsibility of consciousness. We get to choose what we water. We get to guide the unfolding. You're not at the mercy of time. You are the author of its meaning. Because the future isn't a place you arrive. It's a pattern you create. And you create it in your thinking. So speak kindly to yourself. Catch the thoughts that tear you down before they plant themselves too deep. Replace them, gently, patiently, with something more truthful. Not perfect thoughts, just honest ones. Just ones that build. Because what you allow in your mind, you allow in your life. And what you repeat in your life, becomes who you are. The future is not waiting to happen. It's already happening. Right now, inside you. So what are you thinking today? You become the caretaker of your inner world, the moment you take notice. Most people live their entire lives looking outward. They monitor the weather, the traffic, they respond to schedules, deadlines, the needs of others, always alert to the outer world. But somewhere along the way, they forget the most important place of all, the inner world, the quiet landscape within, the soil where every emotion begins, the origin of every word spoken, every action taken, every dream either pursued or abandoned. And yet, it's often left unattended, until one day, often in a moment of quiet or pain, something shifts. We pause, we notice, and in that moment of awareness, something sacred happens. We become the caretaker of our inner world. Not a ruler, not a critic, a caretaker. Someone who listens, tends, protects. Someone who no longer lives at the mercy of their thoughts, but walks among them, gently asking, is this true? Is this helping me grow? Because here's the soft truth. Your inner world is yours. It always has been. But it becomes your responsibility, your garden to nurture, only when you begin to see it clearly. Before that, it's like a house running on autopilot. Old beliefs clatter through the hallways. Childhood fears echo in the corners. And past pain slips into the furniture like dust. But once you notice, you begin to clean. You begin to rearrange. You begin to say no more to the thoughts that don't belong. Not with force, but with quiet courage. You may find that certain thoughts have been with you so long, they feel like part of you. Thoughts like, I'm not enough, or I always mess things up, or nothing ever changes. But they aren't you. They are Some overstayed their welcome, because no one ever told them to leave. But now you can. That's what caretaking is. Not controlling every thought, but becoming aware of them, choosing which ones stay, which ones go, which ones need love, and which ones need replacing. Caretaking doesn't mean your mind will be perfectly peaceful. It means you'll show up daily, the way a gardener shows up for her plants. Some days pulling weeds, some days planting seeds, some days just watching the light return. Because when you become a caretaker, you start to realize peace is not a destination, it's a relationship. With yourself, with your thoughts, with the silence that lives underneath it all. And that relationship deepens every time you return to it, every time you step away from the noise of the world and step gently back into yourself. You may not be able to control what happens outside you, but you can tend to what happens within. And when the storms of life come, as they always do, it is your inner world that determines whether you break or bend. So if you've been tired, if your thoughts have felt heavy or harsh, start by noticing. Not judging, just noticing. That's where all healing begins. That's where your role as caretaker is born. That's the truth anchor you. The moment you take notice of your inner world, you become more than a thinker. You become a gardener, a healer, a guide. So the question is no longer, will life be peaceful? The question is, will I tend to my peace? Small, daily thoughts shape the loudest echoes of your life. We tend to believe it's the big moments that define us, the milestones, the breakthroughs, the wins. But if you listen closely, life rarely speaks in loud declarations. It whispers, and the whispers that echo the loudest are the ones you repeat every day. Not the once-a-year resolution, not the occasional pep talk, but the small, quiet thoughts you think when you wake up, when you're alone, when you fail, when no one is watching. Because the shape of your life is carved not by what you do occasionally, but by what you believe repeatedly. You may not notice it in the moment. A small, harsh thought, I'm falling behind. A quiet doubt, I'm not like them. A flicker of fear, what if I fail again? Tiny thoughts, harmless it seems, but repeated often enough, they take root, and once rooted, they grow. They start to speak for you, act through you, limit you. That's how stories begin, not with fact, but with repetition. And over time, those stories become your echo. You hear them in your decisions, your relationships, your habits. You hear them in the way you shrink back from opportunity, in the way you explain yourself, in the way you talk to the mirror. What you tell yourself every day becomes the most powerful voice in your life. And here's what most people miss. That voice can change, not by force, not by pretending, but by choosing, moment by moment, to speak a little more truth, and a little less fear. It starts small. Maybe instead of "I can't do this," you whisper, "I'm learning." Instead of "I always mess things up," you try, "I'm trying my best." Instead of "What's the point?" you ask, "What's one step I can take?" It might not feel powerful, but neither does a seed, until it becomes a tree. You don't need louder thoughts. You need truer ones. Thoughts that gently return you to yourself. Thoughts that hold you when the world feels too loud. Thoughts that build you, not tear you down from within. And once those thoughts become your daily rhythm, something shifts. Your posture changes. Your choices change. Your life begins to echo differently. Not all at once, but consistently. Because the echoes of your life, your confidence, your peace, your momentum, they all begin in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the repetition of what you tell yourself when no one else is listening. So ask yourself, what am I whispering to myself every day? And if it doesn't sound like truth, or grace, or possibility, isn't it time to change the script? Not with pressure, but with patience, with practice, because your future is already listening to your thoughts, and it will echo back whatever you plant. So today, choose one small thought worth repeating. Let it be honest. Let it be kind. Let it be something that builds, not breaks. Then repeat it. Tomorrow, the next day, again and again, until it becomes the loudest echo in your life. Let this truth carry you forward. You don't need to move mountains to change your life. You just need to choose better thoughts and let them echo.